Hello everyone and welcome to the chapter on the closed Sicilian, which arises after the moves e4, c5, and here knight c3. So with knight c3, white is really keeping their options open, and here what I recommend we play is the move knight to c6. I don't recommend starting with the move g6, because here white has the opportunity to go d4, and after c takes d4, queen takes d4, and now our rook is under attack in a corner. We're going to have to play knight f6, and here white has some dangerous possibilities. For example, white can transpose to the chapter, to the variations in the hyper-accelerated dragon, for example, by playing knight f3, and here let's say after knight c6, then queen a4, followed by a quick e5 push. I mean, black is fine here, but you have to know the variations. But white also has another very dangerous possibility with bishop e3. And then white can quickly follow up with queenside castles. You know, the queen can drop back to d2. And I mean, these variations can be quite dangerous. So I don't recommend starting with g6. Instead, I recommend that we start with the move knight to c6. Now here white can play the move g3. This is really the true close Sicilian. White is aiming to go bishop g2, perhaps d3, bishop e3, maybe knight ge2, sometimes f4, and go for that setup. Now here what I recommend is that we play the move g6, going for the kingside fianchetto once again. And once again, this is really the great thing about the accelerated dragon. The setup with c5, knight c6, and g6 is good against almost anything white does. So we go g6, white goes bishop g2, of course, and we play bishop to g7. All right, so white's main move is the move d3, and here I recommend the move rook to b8. And I feel like black is a pretty fine game here. Generally, we are going to follow up with the move b5 if white allows us to do so. Generally, b4 is next on the agenda. Often we're going to go d6 with a pretty good game for black. Now, white can stop the move b5 by playing, let's say, pawn a4. But here, I recommend switching to a different plan with d6, followed by e5 and knight ge7. It might seem a little bit counterintuitive to put the pawn on e5, blocking our own bishop, but we grab a lot of space in the center. Like I said, we open up a really nice square for our knight on e7, and we take firm control over the d4 square. So black is doing absolutely fine here and has plenty of chances to fight for the win. All right, so this is what we do in case white plays g3 on move number 3. White can, of course, also play another move with the move bishop b5. Now, this is a bit of a mix of a Rossolimo and a close Sicilian, perhaps. But generally, what we do in case white goes bishop b5, if there is a knight on c3, is we play the move knight to d4. You will also see this in case white goes, for example, for the Grand Prix attack with f4, g6, knight f3, bishop g7, and now bishop b5. We don't allow white to take on c6. Instead, here we play knight d4 as well. All right. So, and yeah, you can learn all about that in the Grand Prix chapter. And like I said, here, it's no different. After bishop b5, we play knight d4. We don't want to allow white to trade their bishop for our knight on c6. All right, so here white has a few options. They can decide whether they want to allow us to trade our knight for the bishop on b5 or not. So let's say white goes bishop c4, dropping their bishop back. Now, as you can learn throughout this course, when white puts their bishop on c4, generally a very effective antidote is the move pawn to e6, blunting that bishop on the diagonal. Now, our idea will be to generally follow up with knight f6 and a quick d5 push to grab more space in the center. Now, white can play knight ge2, white's most popular move, developing the knight and putting a little bit of pressure on our knight. And here we go knight f6, developing our knight and putting some pressure on the pawn on e4 and facilitating the d7, d5 push. Now, let's say white castles. Here, I recommend a6. An important move for black. We want to take away the b5 square for the white knight and the bishop. And we also have the idea to follow up with b5. Now, white's most popular move here is the move a4, stopping us from playing b5. And here we play d5, grabbing space in the center. All right, so white takes, we recapture, and black has a pretty good game here. I mean, in case white plays a move like bishop a2, we can go for a move like knight e6, and black is doing absolutely fine. I already like black's chances. We have more space in the center. This bishop on a2 can sometimes feel a little awkward, and like I said, black has really good chance here of getting an advantage. All right, so this is really all we have to know in case white goes bishop c4. White can also, instead of bishop c4, play the move a knight to f3, putting some pressure on our knight. Now here the move we play is we play pawn to a6. We ask white's bishop where it's going. Now white has a few options. It can drop back to d3, but it can also drop back to c4. And in case the bishop drops back to c4, here we play pawn to b5, grabbing more space with tempo. And yeah, here bishop c4 really falls flat on its face. I mean, white can play bishop d5, but we just play rook b8. It might seem a little bit counterintuitive that we've only made moves on the queen side so far, but black is doing absolutely fine. We're going to follow up with a quick knight f6 or e6, and now those moves are going to come with tempo. Let's say white takes on d4, we're going to recapture, and after knight e2, might seem like our pawn on d4 is in trouble, but we have a very nice response here with knight f6. And black already has a very good game here. We can follow up with e6, kicking the bishop away, and then the pawn e4 will often hang. Let's say white takes on d4, for example. We can go e6, the bishop drops back, and we take the e4 pawn. And black is already a little bit better because we have more pawns in the middle. All right, so this is really all you have to know in case white goes bishop to c4. Like I said, we go b5, and black quickly gets a good game. Instead, white can also play bishop back to d3. Might seem a little bit counterintuitive, but now once again, white is getting ready to trade. And now follow up with knight e2. But here what we play is we play g6. Now, in the end, we can go for a kingside fianchetto once again. I mean, our bishop is coming out of g7, and perhaps the plans and ideas will become a little bit more familiar for us. All right, so let's say white castles. Of course, we're going to play bishop to g7. Now here, white has some options. But the most popular move is, let's say, rook e1, keeping the options open. And here we go pawn to e6. And black already has a very good game here. We're going to follow up with knight to e7. Generally, we don't mind the trade on d4 at all. We're just going to recapture with the pawn. And white's knight is going to be forced back to the e2 square. And white's setup is a little bit clumsy. And in case white often does that, we can often follow up with a quick d5, either here or after playing knight e7 first and then d5. So black gets a pretty good game. So there's really not that much you have to know against the close Sicilian. Black almost always gets a good game, with plenty of chance to fight for the win as well, as we have a lot of pieces still on the board. And so there's a lot to fight for. So anyway, I hope this was helpful against the close Sicilian. Don't hesitate to ask any questions in the fora, and I'll be more than happy to help you. All right, so best of luck.